I think I remember that too. Let me just ask you about the mask advisory that you're talking
About what, I'm
The
sorry?
mask advisory.
Yeah.
How are businesses, what are you encouraging businesses to do as they try to navigate this? Can they still do mask mandates? And how do they work through all this?
Well, look, I think what we are expecting when we go to high is to say to all Chicagoans, when you're in a public space, whether you're, at work, whether you're going into a restaurant, a gym, or whether you're going to entertainment like Dr. Argu was at last night with the Nutcracker, wear a mask. We think that that's a smart way to go. Now, we'll leave it to individual businesses as to whether or not they want to mandate that for everyone, but we do think it's smart, given what we're seeing is the rise in cases of COVID, but also flu and RSV. It's really important that people take the necessary steps to protect themselves. Look, no one wants to wear a mask. I don't want to wear a mask, you don't want to wear a mask, but I'm wearing my mask, one, to follow the CDC guidelines. I wore that for through day 10 in my recovery from COVID. But beyond that, I really do think it's important as we move inside for people to be conscious of the fact that the inside conditions are a breeding ground for viruses, and COVID-19 is no different. I don't know if Dr. Art, if you want to add to that.
Just briefly, we will have signage available. We'll be working with Business Affairs and Consumer Protection to make sure that businesses have signs that they can put up, encouraging masks. Certainly if there are settings that choose to require their staff to wear masks or others to wear masks, that is within their, that is certainly something we encourage. I can tell you at the Chicago Department of Public Health, everybody will be required to wear a mask indoors, for example, if and when we move to high. We are at high. We know the risk in the general population is high. We know that we're also starting to see some real impacts on our hospital setting. I will tell you, it is that hospital capacity that we are the most worried about. Right now, just over 5% of our hospital beds across the whole system are taken up by patients with COVID-19, as you heard from Dr. Agarwal. If and when we see that number get above 10%, particularly if we're seeing a flu surge and other problems, that's when we know we start to really, our hospitals start to lose the ability to take care of people who are having a heart attack or having an accident. And so if we're getting above that level, it's going up quickly, and we start to see major problems, that's where we might consider sort of legal mandates. But the advisory would be the next step, and I hope we never need to do anything further than that, and that people would do the right thing while we are at a high level. And some people have also said, why didn't you already do this? We do this based on local data. I want to make sure that people hear that we know folks don't love wearing masks. When we say put the mask on indoors, we mean it. And we mean it because our local risk has hit a high enough level that your risk of just being out and about and living your life, the risk of acquiring COVID is high, and we've got to take that step to help protect the hospitals. So I really feel strongly about doing it based on our local data, and then that advisory would come off when we fell back below the high level.
If I'm not mistaken, the CDC updates their guidance on medium or high risk or whatever every Thursday night.
That's correct.
So two-part question on that. Are you expecting the CDC could move Chicago, Cook County to high tonight?
I think it is unlikely tonight, just based on where we are. But I do think it is likely in the very short time period coming here over the holidays, which is part of why we wanted to lift up the conversation right now.
And I always hate to ask this question, but it feels like we always have to ask are you anticipating, a surge in cases post-holiday because of all people gathering, and is that likely to be the trigger for high here? Yeah,
so we know that the holidays are a time that makes our COVID rates go up. We have seen that regularly. We saw an increase in that week after Thanksgiving gatherings, for example. I expect to see a similar increase in this time period. That's part of why I feel relatively confident that we probably will move to that high level. Again, I want people to gather. I want people to have their celebrations, doing some of these other things, staying home if you're sick, testing in advance of gatherings. That can help limit some of that. And then if people are up to date on their vaccines, if COVID hits, we don't stress the hospitals in the same way. And so that's what's different than where we were, say, 2 years ago around the holidays.
I just have one more question. The Mayor, would be off topic, just election-wise. Yesterday, as you're probably well aware, Willie Wilson and Jamal Green had the challenges to their petitions dropped, meaning they will be in the race. As of now, that means there are 7 black candidates in the race. What concerns do you have about how this could divide the black vote and how it might impact your chances for re-election?
Well, look, I really don't have concerns as long as we keep doing what we need to be doing, which is reaching out into not just Black Chicago, but all over Chicago, and telling the story of how we've delivered for Chicagoans over these last 3.5 years, talking about the fact that we brought economic development and ability to build wealth into areas of our city, black and brown in particular, that really haven't had that kind of boost from City Hall in decades. If we keep telling the story of what we're doing around affordability and housing, helping renters, but also helping homeowners and building additional options around affordable housing, if we keep telling the story of what we've done to really stitch back together the social safety net, if we talk about what we've done and the progress and how we've done it to really make improvements on public safety, we talk about why our economy is the strongest in the nation, and how we are seeing companies flock to Chicago, seeing existing Chicago companies expand their footprint. There is no one else in this race that has a record of accomplishment like we do over these last 3.5 years in the most difficult circumstances I think that any mayor in modern time has faced, but yet we have continued to deliver every single day for Chicagoans. So my focus is on telling that story and listening to Chicagoans about what we need to continue to do to help them in their daily challenges to move beyond COVID, move into prosperity, continue to make progress on public safety, continue to make progress on all the social issues that we've been talking about nonstop since the beginning of my administration. So challengers come what may, where I need to be is where I am right here, which is doing my job and making sure that as an administration, we continue to deliver for Chicagoans. And I'm confident that if we do that and that story is told and people understand what we've been able to accomplish, particularly under the most daunting of circumstances, that we'll be victorious on Election Day.
I feel like Columbo here, but just one more thing.
You said just one more thing.
I did grow up watching that show.
And I appreciate the Columbo reference.
Yes, I thought you might. After the holidays get over, this campaign is going to kick up.
Yeah.
People are going to start spending money on TV.
Well, we already are up. But
You are. You're the only one up right now, but others are going to be joined in. Are you expecting this campaign is going to get down into the mud? Is there going to be a lot of mudslinging? Is it going to be kind of ugly?
Well, I hope not. But there are stories to be told. You know, when you put yourself out there as a challenger to an incumbent mayor, I'm not going to just sit back and wait for others to do their job. We will, and as we have been, really defining and challenging our opponents so that people have an understanding of what the field actually is like, and not just names and not just sound bites. You know, somebody who puts himself out there as a front runner, why aren't you answering questions, basic questions from the media? Somebody who says, you know, I've got the cure for all that ails Chicago, well, prove it. If you've been an elected official for decades and you have no body of work to demonstrate what you were actually able to accomplish, and you match that up against just 3.5 years and the stack of things that we've been able to accomplish under the most difficult circumstances, I think that that tells a story that people are going to want to hear. So I don't think it's got to be about mudslinging, but it is got to be about making sure that, on the one hand, I keep talking to Chicagoans about what we've done, what we accomplished, why it is that I deserve 4 more years, what our positive vision is for the city, but also challenging the opponents, not just to stand on the sidelines and lob bombs, but tell us what you're doing, what's your plan. And importantly, I believe very strongly, past this prologue, you've got people that, if you look at them collectively, have been elected officials for decades and decades and decades. I want them to, and I want, frankly, to urge the media, ask them what their positive accomplishments are for residents in this city. Those are fair questions to ask. That's what campaigns and elections are all about. And we will make sure that we keep pressing and making that case.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. Let's wrap, everyone. Have a great
All
day.
right.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays, everybody. Thank you.